Hi, welcome to Power 2 Pod. My name's Andy,
And I'm Jason.
and this is our Week 6 preview. We're going to bring you our game of the week for both the Big Ten and SEC, then highlight some other matchups in the Big Ten and SEC. Then we'll finish it off with our betting segments with our odds on campus and our lock of the week. So let's get started. We'll start in the Big Ten with the Big Ten game of the week, which is going to be the national championship rematch with Michigan and Washington. Michigan's heading out to Washington. Should be a super cool atmosphere out there. And like we said, rematch from the national championship last year, now as conference foes. If you're looking at this matchup, Michigan is obviously ranked and Washington's not, but Washington is favored right now by 2.5 points, which seems a little wild to me. You got any thoughts on this game, Jay?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is based off of, it's a long travel for Michigan to go all the way to Washington. But if Washington, I think, is a big key, is if they can get out early, if they can get to an early lead and make Michigan play catch up, that is kind of the fall for Michigan. And, you kind of saw it in the Texas game. It forced them to abandon the run and put the ball in the air, and that's not their play style right now. They don't have a good quarterback that they're confident in going out and winning a game. So I think Washington needs to use the home field advantage, use the travel advantage, and definitely just try to get out ahead in this game early and then try to make them, air it out. Because I think that's their best bet to win. If Michigan controls the game that they have, like in against Minnesota, like I don't see that Washington defense being able to just stop the run over and over and over and over again. So they got to make them be in situations to throw the ball. Third and sevens, third and eights. Get off the field, but put points on the board to keep that pressure on that Michigan offense.
Yeah, if you look at the Michigan offense, they're currently 130th in passing offense out of 134 teams. So they're pretty much only ahead of the option teams, the service academies. And then you look at Washington on the flip side, they have the 10th best scoring defense right now, allowing around 12 or 13 points a game. So it's kind of strength versus strength, running game versus Washington's defense, which one comes out on top. But yeah, like you said, I think, you know, the game plan for Washington to win this is get ahead early and stay ahead to get Michigan off their game plan of just pounding the rock. I mean, Michigan's very one-dimensional right now and haven't really proven that they can win through the air. And, it was a little bit better last game against Minnesota, but, then Minnesota came back at the end and almost made that comeback if it wasn't for Big Ten officials. And that offside call on the onside kick, it could have been a completely different story. Big Ten kind of came out and said but didn't say that call was wrong. And Minnesota would have ended up with the ball there, and who knows what would have happened from there. But Michigan doesn't look like they're able to just overwhelm teams like they did last year, just because they're so one-dimensional right now. And, at some point, either Orgy's going to have to make a big leap that he hasn't yet in that passing game, or maybe Tuttle comes in once he's healthy. Like, I don't know how much Tuttle's really playing into this. And when he's finally healthy, does he get a look to actually expand this offense? But if you look at the matchup, Washington's also not a super high scoring offense either. You look, they just went against Rutgers, which you look how Rutgers plays. It's run the ball and then make timely passes. They just lost to Rutgers last week. And, their other wins have come against Northwestern and then a couple of FCS and a, group of 5 team. So nothing on Washington's resume screams out to me like, hey, they should be favored in this matchup. And then if you look at, just in, Will Rogers coming over as transfer quarterback for Washington, he's better than Michigan's passing attack, but it's really hard for me to see where should be favored in this game, or where they really have the edge. I mean, what do they do so much better where they should be favored over Michigan besides having home field advantage? But there's also a reason why Vegas, makes lines and they usually end up winning. Do you have a prediction for this game that you want to throw out there, Jay?
Yeah, I think I'll go with Michigan to win this one. Like I said, they had a struggle to stop against Rutgers, who's, like I said, is a good team this year. I don't want to take anything against them. But yeah, with the rushing offense of Michigan, it's a step up. So you had trouble with the Rutgers, you're gonna have trouble with Michigan. And like I said, when you can't stop Michigan's run, they take away offensive opportunities for you. So, like I said, if they want to win, they got to get out early and fast. But I just don't see that happening. So I think Michigan will grind out another gritty, low-scoring win.
Yeah, I think that's where I have it too. I think it's going to be another defensive game. That's pretty much how Michigan's games are going to go this year. Until they face maybe an Oregon or Ohio State who has the higher powered offense, or even Indiana maybe. But
Yeah.
until they face like an actual high powered offense, I think these games are going to be stuck in the mud games where it's just, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and Michigan's going to break 3 or 4 runs a game, and that's going to be the difference. If I'm going to go prediction, I will predict Michigan 27 and Washington 21. So I just don't see Washington pulling out the upset here. It's not really an upset, according to Vegas, but it would be by the rankings. I just don't see Washington being able to hang with Michigan.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think they're going to be able to stop them. But yeah, let's move on to the SEC game of the week. Number 9, Missouri travels to ranked 25, Texas A&M. Right now, Texas A&M is a -2.5 favorite, which is based off of strictly having home field advantage, I think, in the SEC. Which, College Station's a hard place to play at. Whether that team is good or not, that fan base comes out and shows out every game. So, and Missouri, they struggled against Vanderbilt last week or the week before. They ended up going into 2 overtimes. They were horrible on third down conversion. So hopefully with this bye week that they had, they get that offense figured out and get Brady Cook and Noel running that offense of, because like I said, you're just not going to be able to invade Texas A&M with a stagnant offense. It's just not going to happen. The only downfall with Texas A&M is that Weigman is like a game time decision. So as of right now, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. It's been Marcel Reed for the last 3 or 4 games with Weigman getting hurt. So, like I said, if Weigman's good to go and he's green to go, but he might have some rust, some rust to knock off during this game. So Missouri plays really tough defense. So I would definitely give the edge to Missouri. I think they have a better coach, and like I said, I think they'll figure out the offense to kind of get better on third downs, and I think that they'll come out and show what that offense can do.
Yeah, I think Missouri is one of the biggest mysteries right now for me, especially for like a top 10 team. Because you look at what they've done. They demolished Murray State to start the season, demolished Buffalo to start the season, and then came up against a ranked Boston College team that shouldn't have been ranked because they were only ranked because they
Yes.
beat Florida State. Like, Boston College is okay. Like, they're a good team, but they're not a top 25 team. And then, like you said, going 2 overtimes against Vanderbilt at home, at Missouri, against Vanderbilt, which this isn't Vanderbilt of old to where they're just a walkover. I mean, they've been able to bring in a couple pieces to make them more competitive here in the SEC, but Missouri just hasn't showed you why they're deserving of that top 10 ranking yet, in my eyes. Like, they just haven't done it. You're looking at, they've only played 2 Power Four teams, only one SEC team, and both those games have come right down to the wire. They 27-21 against Boston College and then 30-27 against Vanderbilt. And then you're going to Texas A&M. It's Missouri's first road game this year. So, I get, Missouri was really good last year, but this isn't last year's team. So that's going to have an effect too, being the first road game for some of these people in the SEC road games. They hit differently, or any road game in that fact. And then, we look at Texas A&M. They are having, uncertainty at quarterback with Wegman, and, being injured. And then, Mike Elko bringing in a new system and all that. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns there with Texas A&M as well as they try to settle in. But you look, Texas A&M, they beat Arkansas last week. They beat Florida, and that Notre Dame game to start the year, they lost by 10. That's their only loss so far. But it's really hard to pick somebody in this game just because, like I said, Missouri hasn't shown why they're a top 10 team yet, and Texas A&M really hasn't faced or beat anybody good enough yet to really be in that ranked discussion either. So I feel like we have a lot of being even, week 6 of the season, we still have a lot of like, who is this team? They haven't really found their identities yet or what they're going to be.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I really do think whoever wins this, I think it's going to be a really close game, and obviously, the spread reflects that, being -2.5. But I honestly think Missouri will overcome that, and like I said, I think that coach can really win a game through his coaching and his scheme strategy and all that, and I think that's what he's going to bring to the table this weekend, trying to invade College Station. So if I were to predict this game, I'm going to go with Missouri with a tight one. I'm going to go 29-26 Missouri.
Gotcha. So you think it's going to be a little higher scoring there. I mean, the over-under is 48.5, so that's not too crazy. I mean, just because Missouri really hasn't shown it yet, I'll probably be completely wrong. I'm going to go Texas A&M with the upset here, even though they're favored. Same thing with Washington. Texas A&M's lower-ranked team, but they're favored. I'm going to go with Mike Elko getting his first marquee SEC win and coming out ahead in this one, 27-24 is going to be my prediction. And, Mike Elko finally, gets rolling here in the SEC. Looking now at the Big Ten slate, we have a few games of interest. First one being Friday night. We got Michigan State heading west to Oregon, take on the top 10 Oregon team there. Of note, Michigan State had their first, juggernaut matchup and hosted Ohio State last week. And if you ask a lot of the Michigan State people, the score was a lot closer than what it appeared. And Michigan State was able to hang around until second, third quarter against them, which is kind of surprising considering the talent gap between the two. And now they get, tough schedule, back-to-back, going Ohio State, Oregon, the two teams widely considered the top two teams in the Big Ten. And then Oregon's finally starting to get cooking, they're finally starting to look like that top 10 team after getting off to the rough start there. They rolled UCLA, which isn't saying much last week, but they really put it to Oregon State. And then, now they're getting into that Big Ten grind. So this will be a little bit of a, step up for them as well in competition. Michigan State might, depending on how you look at Boise State, Michigan State might be the best team they faced so far, just depending on how you view Boise State and that running back they have over there. Oregon struggled with Boise State. They only came away with a 3-point victory there. So just a very interesting matchup of two teams that you don't see go against each other, except for Rose Bowls pretty much. Dylan Gabriel still, one of the more accurate passers in all the country. And then Aiden Childs, he is showing all the promise for Michigan State that you're looking for. just needs to cut down on the turnovers and mistakes. And then you look at, just Oregon's defense. I don't feel like their defense has been as good as advertised preseason. Preseason, with all the transfers they brought in, Oregon was viewed as, one of the best defenses in the country. But then, they gave up 14 to Idaho, 34 to Boise State. And they've kind of tempered that back down with Oregon State 14 and UCLA 13. But UCLA is probably the worst offense in the Big Ten besides Northwestern. So you can't really gain a lot from that UCLA matchup. Michigan State, if they get Nick Marsh back, the freshman wide receiver, that's going to be really interesting going against Oregon secondary there, I believe. So just a really interesting game happening on Friday night, 9 o'clock. So, and it's, Michigan State's first time traveling all the way west during the regular season. So just a really interesting game there that, ultimately Oregon probably comes out ahead. What SEC game do you want to highlight here?
Yeah, moving back into the SEC, we got Tennessee traveling to Arkansas. Right now it's minus 13 for Tennessee, and the over and under is 58. This year, Tennessee's been hot. I think they're definitely a team to be reckoned with in the SEC. Not last year, but I think the year before, they ended up getting ranked number 1 after beating Alabama. And unfortunately lost to Georgia for that team, and then they kind of fell apart after that. But Josh Heupel, he can, once he gets the right guys and where he needs them, that offense is almost unstoppable. And, they've went on the road to NC State, which obviously NC State has not a really good team because Clemson put it to them too. But, they went to Oklahoma, and Josh Heupel even admitted that he kind of pulled back his offense a little bit because his defense was just playing so good that don't show them what we don't have to, basically.
Right.
So, yeah, I think Tennessee wins very favorably in this game, but Arkansas has been able to put up a lot of points this year with Taylor Green. He's a really good quarterback that I've watched this year. And, Sam Pittman, he's kind of on the hot seat, so he's trying to play aggressive. So they're definitely going to try to get a win here at home, but I just don't think that their defense will be able to slow down Nico and that Tennessee offense. So I definitely like them, and I like the spread at minus 13 too. And that was the biggest thing is I do believe they brought in a new defense coordinator this year. This Tennessee team did, and it's made a difference. It's made a difference early, and it was definitely a priority that they've touched base on, and I think it's performing on the field because I watched that Oklahoma game, and those guys were just crashing the ball. They were being aggressive. That was an SEC defense there. So I think Tennessee is going to be a real team to reckon with here going forward.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee seems to be putting it together. The defense is the best it's been under Heupel, and the offense always hums. So definitely going to be a fun matchup. Best offense probably Tennessee's faced this year, and we'll see how it goes. Next game I'm going to highlight here in the Big Ten is going to be the Iowa-Ohio State matchup. Now, the spread's 20 points, and it really, this is going to be Ohio State's best competition so far. Not putting Michigan State down, but, Iowa's defense is on a different level than any team they've faced so far. And it'll be really interesting to see how Ohio State's offense and Chip Kelly calling the plays performs against a top-tier defense. Now, we know Iowa's offense is improved, but still not good. No matter, they made the improvement, but it's still, I believe, in the 70s for the ranking of offense. So we know Ohio State's defense is going to be stout and probably hold Iowa down, but I'm more interested in this matchup, how Ohio State's offense looks against Iowa. Because this is kind of Ohio State's last tune-up before they get into the meat of their schedule. Because after Iowa, Ohio State has Oregon next week. then by Oregon, then a bye, then Nebraska, and then Penn State. So this is kind of Ohio State's last tune-up before they get really into the meat and have to go to Oregon, face Nebraska, and then go to Penn State. So this is a big step for Ohio State. I don't think they have a problem in this game at all, really, covering that 20 points. They could probably score 24 points and cover that spread with how their defenses look this year. But I'm like I said, I'm more interested in see how Chip Kelly, Will Howard, and this offense looks against a top-tier defense.
Yeah, I agree. That's really the only thing that you can kind of grasp from this game. I don't see Ohio State struggling or it be a one-score game just because Iowa's offense isn't going to be able to keep up with Ohio State's offense, even if, they struggle early or whatever. Yeah, Ohio State will show, but it will be good to see if Iowa can come up with a scheme and make some plays to where they at least slow down that offense and kind of show them where maybe they have some weaknesses in that offense. But yeah, definitely Ohio State to win. So if we move back to one more game in the SEC we want to highlight, it'd be UCF traveling to Florida. Right now, UCF is a -2.5 favorite. The over-under is 61.5, so they're expecting a lot of points. I kind of like Florida in this spot as an underdog. They've been able to put games in hold to where they could win, and UCF, they got beat by Colorado. Granted, Florida's offense probably isn't as good as Colorado's is right now, but I don't know. Going to since the game is in Florida, I think UCF has a disadvantage. So I think Florida will definitely come ahead on that one as an underdog. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a big game for, Napier and Florida. It's one of the games you look at the schedule, especially after how UCF came out last week under a national audience. Like you had Fox Big Noon there. Like this was, Super Bowl of sorts for UCF. It was really like a showcase game and just got blitzed by Colorado. UCF may be reeling, and now they have to go to the Swamp and face a Florida team that's, looking better. And we get to see, the Mertz Lagway, which one do they go hot hand or however they want to split that up. But yeah, I definitely think you could look at Florida. This is like a must win for Florida there. Moving on here, let's move on to our odds on campus, where we kind of highlight 3 bets that we're looking at for this week. My 3 bets are going to be, I'm going to do Penn State -27.5 against UCLA. We all know James Franklin loves covering the spread. I think it's kind of in the back of his head. He didn't cover against Illinois, so he's going to really look to cover against UCLA this week. And the quarterback, Ethan Garbers, is very questionable at this point to play. And UCLA is already kind of behind the 8 ball with the offense being one of the worst in the Big Ten. So the first bet I like is Penn State -27.5. The next bet I like is Wisconsin -8. Or not Wisconsin, USC -8, sorry. They travel to Minnesota. It's a night game at Minnesota, and they're giving up 8 points to Minnesota. I think just how much effort they put up against Michigan last week, and kind of the backlash of falling short. And then here comes USC, high-powered offense. I could really see USC opening this game up and covering that -8. And then the last big, bet I have here is going to be the Ohio State -20.5 against Iowa. I don't even know if Iowa gets on the board this game. And I have faith that Ohio State's going to score 3 or 4 touchdowns against Iowa. So that's why I'm going Ohio State -20.
Yeah, looking at my 3 for odds on campus will be, I will start off with our game of the week, Missouri +2.5. Like I said, I think it's going to be a neck and neck game. I think a lot of things will determine that, but like I said, I think Missouri's coach will be able to kind of out coach Elko in a road SEC game. He's been through the gauntlet a little bit before. This is Mike Elko's first year in the SEC, so I think Missouri can definitely at least keep it close, if not win. I actually like them to win, but I'll take the +2.5. Moving on to my next one. Like I said earlier, I think I'm going to take Florida in the Swamp. Just a really tough place to play. It's at prime time on the SEC network. I think that Florida, like you said, it's almost a must-win game for Florida and Bill Napier. So I like the Florida is +120 money line on that one. Another one that I like is Ole Miss -9 against South Carolina. I think they got a lot more to prove now that they took a tough loss against Kentucky. And, this is back-to-back SEC games, so it's not going to be easy. It's a road game, but I think Lane Kiffin has to come out aggressive. And I think that if they can contain South Carolina's quarterback, Sellers, they'll be able to cover that -9. And that was it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's your three.
Yeah, that was it.
So that's our best bets, odds on campus there. Now to move on to our locks of the week, which is just our one bet that we like the most. I'm going to the game of the week in the Big Ten, the Michigan-Washington. If you're going to give me Michigan with points against an unranked team, I'm going to take Michigan +2.5. I just don't see, I would even consider taking Michigan money line because I just don't see the matchup that Vegas is seeing. And like I said, I'll probably be proven wrong, and Washington will win by 7 or something. But my lock of the week, I'm going Michigan +2.5.
Yeah. I'm going to go for my lock of the week. I'm going to go back to that Tennessee offense. I got them -13. Like I said, Arkansas can hang for a while, I think, with their offense, but come the second half, I think Tennessee gives it to them. Like I said, Heupel's aggressive. Like I said, he's got a lot to prove that he can get this Tennessee team to contend, especially in the SEC. Lock in -13 for Tennessee.
All right, so there you have our Week 6 preview. Thanks for watching and joining us, and hope you enjoyed the content.
Thank you.